The crash in the desert. The desert was quiet. It was past midnight, and the stars were bright in the sky. The wind blew softly across the empty road, carrying dust and silence. Jake was driving his old truck like he always did on long delivery jobs. He liked the quiet. No people, no noise. Just him and the open road. He took a sip of his cold coffee and turned up the radio. A soft country song played in the background. His eyes were heavy, but he still had miles to go. He looked out the window, bored, until he saw a light in the sky. At first, he thought it was a shooting star. But then it changed direction fast. It moved like nothing he had ever seen. The bright light shot down toward the desert, leaving a trail of fire behind it. Boom. A loud crash shook the ground. The light disappeared behind the hills to the east. Jake's truck rattled, and the coffee spilled on his shirt. He hit the brakes. What the hell was that? He whispered. He sat there for a moment, unsure. Then curiosity got the better of him. He turned off the road and started driving toward the crash. It took him 20 minutes to reach the site. There were broken rocks, smoke, and something glowing in the sand. At first, he thought it was a satellite or a fallen plane, but it wasn't. It was a small pod, silver, smooth, not made by any human hands. Steam hissed from its sides. Jake stepped closer, heart pounding. He looked around. No one was there. The pod suddenly made a click sound, and a small door slid open. Jake jumped back. Inside was a girl. She looked about 16, but something was different. Her skin was pale blue, her hair white and glowing faintly in the dark. She had no clothes, only a silver cloth wrapped around her body like a robe. Her eyes opened slowly, bright, glowing violet eyes. Jake froze. The girl looked scared. She tried to move but winced in pain. Her leg was bleeding. Her hands reached out toward him, trembling. And then, a voice filled Jake's head. "Please, don't leave me." Jake looked around again. No one had spoken. The voice came from inside his mind. His mouth went dry. What are you?" "I'm not here to hurt you," the voice said. "I'm alone. I need help." Jake swallowed hard. "This is crazy," he muttered. But the girl looked so weak, so afraid. Her eyes begged him to trust her. Against every bit of logic in his head, Jake reached forward and lifted her out of the pod. She was too light for her size. He placed her gently in the back seat of his truck and covered her with his jacket. Then he heard it. Choppers. Black helicopters flew overhead. No lights, silent, military. Jake ducked low and watched from behind his truck. The choppers hovered over the crash site and began landing. Black-suited men with strange scanners stepped out. Jake's heart raced. They didn't look like normal soldiers. Their gear was high-tech, and their movements too fast, too cold. He started his truck. Slowly, quietly. He turned off the headlights and drove away using only the moonlight. The girl didn't speak. Not with words or with her mind. She just held Jake's jacket close and stared out the window. They drove for over an hour, taking back roads and side trails. Finally, Jake reached his old cabin deep in the desert hills. No neighbors. No phones. Just a generator and well water. He carried the girl inside and laid her on the couch. She was weak but still conscious. Her wound wasn't bleeding anymore. Jake sat across from her, rubbing his face. "This is insane," he whispered. "You're not from here, are you?" The girl looked at him with sad eyes. "My name is not something you can say," she said in his mind. "I don't belong here. I didn't mean to crash." Jake leaned back. "You speak inside my head." "I'm sorry. I don't know your language. This is how I can talk." He nodded slowly. "Why were those men there so fast?" "They didn't look surprised." The girl looked away. "Because they knew I was coming." Jake stood up and locked every door. He checked the windows. He didn't know what he was doing, or why he was helping an alien girl. But something in her eyes told him she was telling the truth. Still, his hands were shaking. He looked out at the night sky, then back at the sleeping girl on his couch. Something told him this was only the beginning. The girl with no name, the night. Passed slowly. Jake didn't sleep. He sat in his old wooden chair near the fireplace, a shotgun resting across his knees. The wind outside howled like something wild was watching the cabin. But Jake's eyes never left the girl. She was still. On his couch. Her chest rose and fell. Peaceful now, but earlier she had cried in her sleep. No sound came from her lips, but her face twisted in pain. And every now and then, a word appeared in Jake's mind. Run. Hide. Don't let them. Take me. Jake had seen a lot in his life. War, death, lies, but this was something else. This was the stuff of stories people didn't survive. But the girl? She didn't look like a threat. She looked lost. Morning came. A pale light filtered through the dusty windows. Jake finally stood and walked to the kitchen. He made coffee and stared at the old radio on the counter. The news played low. Double quotes. An unknown explosion was seen near Route 17. Government officials say it was a satellite crash. All air traffic in the area is restricted. Jake turned it off. He wasn't stupid. That was no satellite. Later, the girl woke up. She sat up slowly, still weak. Jake handed her a blanket, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. No words, just silence. Then her voice entered his mind again. You stayed. Jake shrugged. Didn't seem right to leave you. You don't know me. I don't need to. The girl touched her arm. The wound had already started healing too. Fast for any human. She winced but said nothing. Jake sat across from her, arms crossed. You got a name? She paused. Then shook her head. Not one you can say, Jake chuckled. That so? Names have meaning on my world. But my world is gone. Jake's smile faded. Gone. The girl looked out the window. Her eyes filled with quiet pain. Destroyed. Burned by war. I escaped before the end. But I'm the last. As the day went on, Jake noticed strange things. The girl didn't eat, but drank water. She touched a broken lamp and it flickered back to life. The old generator outside, which Jake had kicked for 2 years, now ran quietly after she brushed her fingers across its rusted panel. What are you? He finally asked. She looked at him. I'm what humans used to call a friend. Jake blinked. Used to? Long ago, your people and mine shared things, knowledge, peace. Then something changed. You became afraid. You attacked. Jake shook his head. We attacked you? Not me. My ancestors, we left. All records of us were erased. Jake frowned. This was too big. Too strange. Then the girl stood up, walked over to the radio, and touched the back. It sparked. Then a strange humming sound came out. A new voice played alien. Soft, sad. What is that? Jake asked. My mother's last message, a warning. We were not safe anymore. Suddenly, they heard a knock. Jake grabbed his shotgun. The girl froze. He peeked through the curtain. A man in a brown uniform stood outside. Local delivery guy. Jake opened the door halfway. Hey Jake, the man said, smiling. Heard some weird things last night. Military trucks down by the old canyon. You see anything? Jake shook his head. Didn't hear a thing. The man glanced past Jake into the cabin. You all right? You look nervous. I'm fine. Just tired. The man nodded. All right. Stay safe. Jake shut the door and locked it twice. Later that evening, Jake checked his truck. That's when he saw it. A small metal disc, stuck under the bumper, round, black, flashing red every few seconds. A tracker. Jake cursed under his breath. He yanked it off and smashed it with a rock. They were being followed. He ran back inside. We have to go. The girl stood, calm but ready. They're coming, aren't they? Jake nodded. Soon. She reached out and touched his shoulder. A soft warmth filled his body, not fear, not confusion, but something like trust. That night, they left the cabin. The stars were bright above them, but the darkness behind felt heavier. The girl still hadn't given him a name. Jake didn't need one dot to him. She was already something more than a stranger, but deep down, a question grew in his mind, one he hadn't asked yet. Why had she really come here? And worse, was he the only one helping her? The escape plan. Jake didn't believe in fate. But that night, as he watched a glowing alien girl sleep in the back of his truck, with black helicopters circling the skies and strangers hunting them like animals, he started to wonder if fate believed in him. The truck engine hummed low, the desert wind pushing sand across the empty road. Jake kept his hands steady on the wheel, eyes scanning the mirrors. No lights behind. No sound, but he knew they were close. The girl stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, still glowing faintly in the dark. She didn't speak with her mouth, she never did. But her thoughts reached Jake's mind like soft waves. They found us. Jake nodded. I know. That tracker nearly cost us. She sat up, pulling the blanket tighter around her. They won't stop. Not until I'm gone, or dead. Jake looked at her through the mirror. What do they want from you? She looked out the window, silent for a long moment. Proof, fear, control. They want to know if I came alone. Jake swallowed. The weight of it all was starting to sink in. This wasn't just about her. This was about Earth. By sunrise, they reached the edge of an old forest, the kind that didn't show up on maps anymore. Trees so thick they swallowed sunlight, roads cracked and forgotten. Jake had camped there as a kid. No cell towers, no people. Perfect for hiding. He parked the truck under a broken shelter covered in vines. The girl stepped out, barefoot, walking softly across the moss. Her eyes brightened, as if the trees whispered to her. Jake followed. You know this place? She nodded slowly. My kind, we came here long ago, before your time. We left something behind. They walked through the woods until they reached a rocky hill. At first, it looked like nothing, but then the girl knelt, pressed her palm to the ground. A faint pulse, a low hum. Then the earth moved. A hidden door opened beneath the grass. Inside, stairs, old stone, and silence. Jake stared in disbelief. This was under my feet my whole life? She stepped in. Some truths are buried until it's time. Inside was a hidden chamber. Old tech lined the walls, nothing like human machines, floating lights, smooth panels. A map of Earth hovered in the center of the room, glowing in blue and red. The girl stepped toward it. There's still one ship left. Jake blinked. A ship? You mean ... to leave? Yes, but it's far. We need to move fast. She pointed to a red dot on the map deep in the mountains. A place Jake had never been. Jake walked around the room, running his hands along the strange surface. Why now? He asked. Why come back? The girl touched the wall. A vision played in the air, images of cities burning, skies full of ships, humans running in fear, because we gave humans a gift once, technology, peace, and you used it to make weapons. Jake stared at the image. That wasn't me. She looked at him. No, but it might be your kind again. Jake sat down, thinking hard. So what? You crash here, test us? See if we've changed? She didn't answer. He stood up. Was this all a test? Am I just part of some plan? The girl looked sad. I didn't choose this. I didn't want to test anyone, but I was told to run. And if I found kindness, maybe it wasn't too late. Jake looked down at his dirty hands, his old boots, his beat-up truck. Guess I'm your test subject. She smiled faintly. You're the first human who didn't want to trade me for power. The moment broke when a sound echoed through the trees. Engines. Distant, but getting closer. Jake grabbed his gear. We leave now. No roads, no towns. She nodded. Jake looked at her again. If we don't make it to that ship, what happens to Earth? Her voice entered his mind again, quiet, but sharp like ice. Then the others will come, and they won't ask questions. The forest closed behind them as they ran. Jake no longer felt like he was helping a lost girl. He was carrying a secret that could decide the future of the entire planet. And somewhere deep inside, he wasn't sure whose side he was really on anymore. The hidden facility, the forest, didn't feel like Earth anymore. Not to Jake. Every step deeper into the trees felt like stepping into another world, quieter, older, watching him. Birds didn't sing here. The wind didn't move the leaves. Even time felt slower. But the girl walked with purpose, like she had been here before. They moved without speaking. Every hour, Jake would stop and listen. The sounds behind them were getting closer. Vehicles, drones, voices in the night. The men in black suits weren't far, and they weren't giving up. After 2 days of hiding, walking, and sleeping under trees, the girl finally stopped at the foot of a rocky cliff. Jake was tired, hungry, and on edge. This is it? He asked. She nodded. The place my people left behind. Jake looked up at the wall of stone. Doesn't look like much. She walked forward and placed her hand against the rock. It began to glow. With a soft rumble, the cliff shifted. A hidden door opened, revealing a tunnel that led deep underground. Cold air rushed out clean, untouched by time. Jake's jaw dropped. How long has this been here? She looked at him. Before your first cities. Before your first war. Inside, the tunnel led to a vast chamber, quiet, glowing with soft light from floating crystals in the walls. Strange markings lined the floor. Machines stood silent, waiting. It didn't feel like science. It felt like memory. In the center of the room stood a pillar of light. Inside it hovered a hologram Earth, spinning slowly. But something was wrong. Half of the planet glowed red. Jake stared. What is this? The girl stepped forward, a warning system. My people left it behind to watch your world, to see if you'd change. Jake's stomach turned. So this whole time, we were being watched? Judge. She reached into the light, and the map changed. It zoomed in, showing cities, war zones, protests, pollution, weapons. Jake watched, ashamed. But there's good in us too, the girl nodded. I believe that. That's why I'm here. She walked to the side of the chamber and activated a console. Lights flickered on. A second map appeared, smaller, marked with only one glowing point in the mountains. Jake pointed. Is that the ship? She nodded. The last one. Buried deep. If we reach it, I can send a message to stop the coming fleet. Jake stiffened. Fleet? You mean others are coming? She turned to face him, her voice in his mind now colder. They're already on the way. The signal was automatic when my pod crashed. If they think Earth is still dangerous. Jake finished the sentence himself. They'll destroy us. He looked around the room, this ancient place hidden beneath the ground, and realized how small he really was. He had saved a girl, but maybe she was the one saving him. Still, he had questions. You said humans and your kind were once allies. She touched a crystal, and a new image appeared, a memory. Humans and alien beings standing side by side. Peace, trade, joy. Then fire, betrayal, warships. Jake looked away. What did we do? She whispered in his mind. You promised peace. Then, you built weapons from our knowledge. You turned gift into power. Jake paced the floor. I didn't do that. She nodded. I know. That's why I need your help. Because someone like you still exists. He clenched his fists. But the people hunting us, they won't stop. Then we don't stop either. Suddenly, the chamber lights dimmed. The map flashed. A red dot blinked near their position. They found us, Jake said. The girl looked toward the exit. We have one chance left. Get to the ship, or Earth burns. Jake didn't need time to think anymore. He grabbed his bag, tightened his boots, and looked at her. Then let's finish this. They ran into the tunnel, leaving the past behind and racing toward whatever future was left. The truth revealed Jake had always believed monsters came from the sky. But now, as he stood beside the alien girl who trusted him with her life, he wondered if the real monsters had always been here, on Earth. They hiked through the frozen mountains now. No roads, no maps. Just wind and snow biting through Jake's jacket as they climbed higher and higher. The girl walked ahead barefoot, but never seemed cold. She moved like she was following something only she could feel. A pull, a memory. Behind them, the sky was no longer empty. High above, strange shapes had started to appear, faint outlines, moving shadows. Not planes. Ships. By the second night, they found a small cave and built a fire. Jake sat across from her, his hands shaking from more than just cold. His voice was low, tired. You said we betrayed your kind. She nodded. But you didn't tell me why. What did we really do? The fire crackled. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she closed her eyes and for the first time let Jake see. The memory wasn't shown on a screen. It was shared like a dream inside Jake's mind. He saw a city made of light. Tall, silver towers. 2 suns in the sky. Her people walked peacefully, beautiful, gentle. Their world looked like a miracle. Then came the humans. They came in ships smiling, offering trade, friendship, words of peace. Jake felt hope in their hearts. Then he felt the lie. Humans asked for help building clean energy. They were given the secret of Starfire, a limitless living power. A gift, but soon, the gift was stolen, used to power war machines. Weapons. Jake saw human warships raining fire down on alien cities using the very technology that had been shared in trust. The girl's voice entered his mind, soft and broken. We gave everything, and you turned it into destruction. Jake stood in the cave, staring at her. His voice cracked. Why are you even helping us now? She looked at him, not with hate, but with sorrow. Because I was born after the fall. I wasn't taught fear, only hope. I was told maybe some humans were still good. Jake turned away, heart pounding. He felt sick. The weight of the past crushed him. His people, his history wasn't clean. It was covered in lies and blood. You said they're coming. The others. What will they do when they get here? She didn't look up. Judge. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed outside the cave. A drone. Then, another. Jake grabbed his rifle and looked out. Bright blue lights swept over the mountainside. Voices shouted through radios. They found us. Jake hissed. The girl stood slowly, eyes glowing brighter. I can stop them, she said. But not forever. She raised her hand and for a moment, the lights vanished. The drones froze in the air. Jake stared. What did you just do? Her nose bled. Her body shook. A warning. Jake helped her sit. We need to move, fast. Before they left the cave, Jake asked one last question. If they come to destroy Earth, will you stop them? She looked at him, tired, honest. I'm not here to save Earth. Jake froze. Then she added, I'm here to see if it deserves saving. Outside, the mountain wind howled louder. The ship was near. The end was closer, and Jake finally understood. This wasn't a rescue mission. This was a test. Countdown. The sky broke at 3:07 a.m. Not with lightning, not with thunder, but with silence, the kind that presses against your chest and makes the world feel wrong. Jake was awake when it happened. He looked up and saw the stars move, not fall, not blink, move, like something massive that just slipped between Earth and the rest of the universe. They had reached the edge of the final valley. Beyond the frozen ridge, Buried in ice was the last alien ship, the one hope the girl had spoken of. But Jake couldn't look away from the sky. Shapes hovered far above. Long, dark, almost invisible, but too perfect to be clouds. Not machines. Not satellites. Observers thought they were here. The girl stepped beside him, eyes fixed upward. The fleet has arrived. Jake's voice cracked. They're not attacking. She nodded. Not yet. Together, they walked toward the valley below. The ground trembled. Not from footsteps. From waiting. Every moment felt like a countdown. Jake checked his watch. It wasn't ticking. Why isn't time moving? He whispered. The key whispered. Girl placed a hand on his shoulder. Because they're watching us. Right now. Every word. Every thought. As they climbed down the icy slope, Jake asked the question that had been eating him alive. Why me? The girl didn't answer at first. Then quietly, because you made a choice. When you found me, no one was watching. No reward, no proof. But you helped anyway. Jake stopped. So, what now? I get judged like the whole planet depends on me? She looked into his eyes. Not judged, trusted. The cave opened before them, carved into the ice like a sleeping giant. Inside. Frozen walls glowed with ancient symbols. Jake stepped carefully, flashlight cutting through the dark. At the center of the chamber, the ship waited. Sleek. Silent. Buried but alive. Like it had been waiting only for her. The girl touched the ship, and it pulsed with light. Jake stepped back as the ice melted in seconds. The air shifted warmer, heavier. Then the voice came, not hers. Not his. Something older. Identify. The girl replied not with words, but with thought. The air shimmered. The walls lit up. The ship responded with a question, not to her. To Jake. Is this world still worth protecting? The voice didn't sound angry or kind. Just ... absolute. Jake felt his knees weaken. His voice caught in his throat. He thought of the lies, the wars, the greed, but he also thought of strangers helping each other during storms, of music, of laughter, of how one tired man chose to carry a dying girl through the night. He took a breath. Yes, but it needs help. Silence. Then the lights dimmed, and the ship began to rise. The girl turned to him. They've heard your answer. Jake blinked. Is that it? Is it over? She shook her head. No, now comes the hardest part. Above the earth, the ships began to shift. Weapons stayed cold. Engines hummed. But they did not leave. They watched. Because one man had bought Earth time. The choice. Jake didn't wake up. He returned. One blink and the frozen ship, the alien girl, the glowing skies. All vanished. He was back in his truck. Engine running. Radio humming. As if none of it had ever happened. Except he remembered everything. The world outside was normal again. No ships in the sky. No flickering time. No glowing maps. Just early morning. Sun on the road. And a gas station up ahead. But something felt off. The air tasted different. The weight on Jake's chest hadn't left. Because deep down, he knew the truth. This was the second chance. And it was already ticking. He parked the truck and walked into the gas station. People talked, laughed. A couple argued near the coffee machine. No one knew. No one felt the sky had been moments away from falling. But Jake did. Because the alien girl had given him a mission. The ship hadn't destroyed Earth. Not yet. Instead, it had done something worse. It gave humanity back to itself. Unaware, unwatched, free to prove without pressure if it had changed. And Jake? Jake was the only one who remembered the test. The cashier smiled. Rough morning? Jake nodded. You could say that. He looked around. Every small human thing suddenly felt important. A baby laughing. An old man giving his change to a stranger. A news report on the TV about war. Followed by a local story of someone feeding the homeless. This was Earth. Messy, loud, beautiful, dangerous. But, not lost. Not yet. Jake stepped outside and stared at the sky. No alien ships now. But he knew they were watching, from beyond, from silence. From somewhere humanity could never see. And they were waiting. For one answer. Will you destroy again? Or will you finally learn? He opened the glove box. Inside was a crystal. Small. Faintly. Glowing. A final gift from her. If he touched it, the Watchers would listen. But Jake didn't touch it. Not yet. He closed the glove box and started the truck, because the choice wasn't his alone. It belonged to everyone. And so, Earth spun on. Normal. For now.